we start the tour, I'm going to tell you a few things about what we're going to see here. You know the Acropolis Hill. We're visiting the Acropolis Hill. We have explained many times what is this Acropolis, what this word means, which means the edge of a town. So usually in most of the cities the Acropolis was a fortress, an empty fortress, the last space of protection when the enemies came. This Acropolis here, together with the Acropolis we saw in Mycenae, was something different. It was the first place that was inhabited here in Athens, the top of the Acropolis here during the Mycenaean period. Remember yesterday it was the 16th century before Christ. So there was a palace of the king on top of the Acropolis here during that time. Many years after that, many centuries actually after that, in the 8th century before Christ, this hill became a sacred hill. So it became a sanctuary of the Athenians. And how did the city had these goddess as a protectoress goddess? Because it was a famous battle between two gods, Athena, as it is called in Greek, and Poseidon, goddess Athena and Poseidon. Before that, the city was called Kekropia, after the name of the mythical king that was called Kekro, as I told you. So there was a battle between these two gods because these two gods wanted the city of Athens. So each of the gods offered a gift to the Athenians. So goddess Athena offered the olive tree, and god Poseidon offered the seawater. So he threw his trident and seawater came out of the ground. And the people here in Athens, in Kekropia, as it was called during that time, had to choose between the two gifts. And they chose the gift of goddess Athena. And that's why the city was called Athena, by the name of the goddess. And that's why we're going to see a temple on the top, which is called Erechtheion, which was dedicated to these two gods, goddess Athena together with god Poseidon. But this was the sanctuary of goddess Athena. Even the famous Parthenon temple was for the vain goddess, goddess Athena, who was worshipped as Parthenos. Parthenos means virgin in Greek. So, most of the temples were built in the late 6th century, the first temples, but most of them were damaged when the Persians came here. Remember what I told you about the Battle of Thermopylae, where we stopped and saw the monument? After they passed from this narrow road, they came and they damaged the whole city. They burned Athens in 490 before Christ. So all the things that were built before that were damaged. But after these Persian wars, this Persian invasion, they wanted to rebuild the city. And they did it the same century. The 5th century was considered the golden century of this city. One of the famous politicians of that time was the famous Pericles. So during the time of Pericles, the whole area was rebuilt. And most of the monuments that we're going to see today were built in the 5th century before Christ. And even they were not bombed. During the 5th century before Christ, the Christian church, a palace and then a mosque. There was a big minaret outside. So after the city was liberated in 1830, the minaret was demolished, and then they started the excavations in there, and it became an archaeological site. So one of the monuments, which is one of the most important, is the small temple that you see up there. If you come a little bit closer to you, you're going to see a small temple. You're going to see the way on the way up. It's a small temple dedicated to Athena Nike. Nike means victory, as I told you, but there was also another goddess with the same name, goddess Nike, with the wings. This was Nike. I showed you a Nike when we were in Philippi, in the entrance of the theater, remember? So, this Athena Nike was a different Nike. Nike here means victory, and because they wanted to separate this Athena from the other with the wings, she was called Apteros, which means without wings. Because she was Nike, she was Athena who offered the victory to the Athenians.
Bueno, estamos en Atenas, en Grecia. Vamos a comer un cerdo muy delicioso. Voy a enseñar un poquito lo que es la ciudad. Hola, buenos días. Son las 8:15 en Alemania. Se acabó el paseo. Espero que les haya gustado. Tiempo divertido y aprendizaje. Sale, nos vemos.